This year's Oscars, taking place in 2020, contains many brilliant pieces of filmmaking. Each and every one of these films deserve to be in the running in consideration for the Best Picture/Movie of this year. What's up, you guys? My name is Ryan Manood, and today I'm going to be breaking down my rankings of this year's Best Picture nominees. I know what you're thinking. Why would you be trusting a teenager's perspective on filmmaking? Well, the brilliant thing about filmmaking is what I get out of a movie may be different from what you get, but that's the beauty of it. As Quentin Tarantino says, if I make 1,000,000 movies, I want people to see 1,000,000 different movies. I think he says something like that. I'll pull up the quote. But all right, so let's get right into it. And before I start ranking these movies, I have to tell you, I have not seen Little Women yet. I tried to get it working on my Fire Stick. Turns out the movie's still in theaters, which I had no idea. And unfortunately, I won't be able to view it before the Oscars, but I definitely will give it a watch afterwards. So let's get to it. So starting us off with number 8, we got The Irishman. So before everyone gets mad at me, I completely understand that this is a brilliant movie. I'm not saying it's not. In fact, all of these movies, I would say on a 100% scale, would be a 90 or above. Therefore, this would fall around the 90 for me. So I'm not saying that I don't like the movie. I definitely got something out of it. In this movie, we follow Frank Sheeran, a former truck driver, and we see all the events that impact his life to eventually become the hitman that he is today. So why is The Irishman at the bottom of my list? Unfortunately, I was a part of the group of the audience who thought that it was moving too slow. Yes, the movie is 3 hours and 30 minutes. That's a lot. And hey, listen, a lot of people are saying that it didn't drag, that it was moving quite fine, the pacing was okay, and they were interested throughout. I have no other explanation, but I simply did not feel that I was always with the plot. I always was either zoning out of it or like having to refocus, and unfortunately, that defeats the whole purpose of what a movie should do. Then again, I got so much out of this film. I really enjoyed it. Martin Scorsese is a great director, and much respect to him. This one just wasn't exactly the one for me. Next on the list, number 7, we got Ford vs. Ferrari. I love that this movie focused so much on those two characters. Them together on screen is probably the most entertaining scenes for me. It wasn't, so much of all the racing scenes and the cinematic shots, although they were beautiful. Racing movies don't do much for me as long as the characters are intriguing enough. The reasoning why it's low on my list at number 7 is simply because in comparison to the other films, I don't mean to sound like a jerk, but it's just another car movie. Yes, it brought original ideas and original storytelling moments, but it didn't really do as much story-wise that impacted me as much as the other movies on this list did. Bringing us next on our list, we have number 6, Joker. And yes, I know, this movie has been praised. It's up for like 11 Oscar awards, I think. I think it's about 11. And it's being praised, man. This movie took the world by storm. Everyone loved it. And because of that reason, I had my expectations up here. Therefore, it didn't exceed my expectations. Joker is the film about a mentally unstable individual who lives a tough life. Joaquin Phoenix is amazing. I heard all the comments about what he did with this movie and how fantastic it was, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. I don't know how much it could do for me, because we've already had a Joker that was so phenomenal, and what more can he do? Holy crap, did he impress me. Now, that brings me to the bad. Not so much the bad, but if you take away Joaquin Phoenix from this film, the film doesn't do much for me. Films in general are allowed to be just character developing movies, which is what this is. It's just that I feel like I would have maybe enjoyed it more if there was a more of a structure to the film. I might be crazy, you guys might disagree with me, but I feel like that's where I feel with this film. Other than that, Joaquin Phoenix, I have no doubt that he'll most likely take the Oscar. The only competition would be Adam Driver. We'll get to him later. But I do think Joaquin Phoenix will win the Oscar. So good for him and good for Joker. And next on the list, we got Jojo Rabbit. Man, was this a fun ride. Jojo Rabbit is a movie where we follow a kid in Nazi Germany during World War II who wants to be a Nazi. It's his dream to become a Nazi. And he finds out that there is a Jew hiding in his apartment thanks to his mother, which changes his perspective. Now, this movie is under a comedy. Took a lot of people by surprise. Is it too soon to joke about Nazi Germany and World War II, the horrific events? But the way that this is done is phenomenal. I feel like many of the jokes hit for me. And, it was just such a lighthearted film in such a dark period of time, and I think it's what we needed. Comedy is supposed to challenge us, which is what this movie does. The performances in the film are great. I was laughing out of my seat, and then I was tearing up at certain points. I feel like Taika Waititi was able to hit many levels in this film. That's all, my positive comments about the film. Negatives? No, I love this film. So, yeah, sorry. No, I don't really know what to say about the negatives, but I really liked it. And at number 4, we have 1917. This film is a World War I set film, and it's interesting because you don't see a lot of those movies, which is why it caught many eyes. These two soldiers are given a very important mission to inform other soldiers, this other base, that they should not attack. If they do proceed with their attack, they will be slaughtered and thousands will die, including one of the main soldiers' brother. I know what everyone's thinking when they walk out of the theater, when they see this movie. It is designed to look as if the movie is one continuous shot. Now, this movie, the whole movie was like that. It never seemed like the camera cut. Few places here and there where you were able to be like, oh, that's where they cut it. But other than that, it was phenomenal. So much effort was put into. They had one of the best cinematographers to put this film together. And this film is brilliant. And one more thing, I love running. I don't know why. I love running in movies. I feel like if done right, it has such a dramatic punch on me. And it really feels, like that scene. I teared up in theaters watching him get out of the trench and run for his life, for their lives, and fulfilling his promise. So that is why I have 1917 at number 4. And next on the list at number 3, we got Marriage Story. Okay, Marriage Story for a very long time was my favorite movie on this list. So, quick recap of the film. Marriage Story is such a simple story, and as the director has put it into his own words, it's a love story about divorce. Simple as that. It really brings out the true terror of going through such a horrific thing, such a horrific point of life, which is divorce. And the film challenges you in emotionally. You watch it, you're locked in. It doesn't. My friend told me this, and I totally agree with her. It doesn't feel like you're watching a movie. It feels like you're watching these two characters go at it, and watching them go through this horrendous process, which is heartbreaking to watch. The best part about this film is the performances. Like Joker, without these performances, the movie doesn't work. Adam Driver in particular, he really stood out to me. If it wasn't for Joaquin Phoenix, this would have been his year. Same with for Scarlett Johansson, she did a phenomenal job. I have no doubt that Laura Dern will win Best Supporting Actress, hopefully. But yeah, these performances are phenomenal. This movie really does take such a simple plot as a divorce and just stretches it and makes it this crazy just journey. Your heart is involved, you feel locked in, and it had a really strong impact on me, which is why I ranked it at number 3. And at number 2, we have Parasite. I literally watched Parasite a few hours ago. It's 1 a.m. right now, and I just had to get all these movies off my chest and talk about them. Parasite is a film about a family in poverty. The names I don't remember; they were hard to pronounce. But this family is poor, and then the son encounters a richer civilian who they eventually hire as an English tutor, and then the son, spreads his family throughout the rich family and starts giving them jobs and suggesting them until they eventually invade this household, and then from there everything goes wrong, and it goes from a very lighthearted, not comedy, like a lighthearted drama, and it turns into this like horrifying, terrible story, and you just have to watch it yourself to get the full experience of watching Parasite. It's phenomenal. Now, this movie, I thought the cast was great. I believe they did win the Golden Globe for best cast, and the direction was phenomenal. I'm really rooting for the director of this movie to take home Best Director. The cinematography of this film was beautiful. The story of this is beautiful. I watched this movie with my dad, and as soon as the credits roll, we both looked at each other and said the same idea. We said, that was unlike anything else. It was so original. And that is why Parasite is number 2 on my list. And finally, at number 1, we got Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, directed by Quentin Tarantino, the man, the myth, the legend, my favorite director. So, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a story about Rick Dalton, an actor, and his stunt double, Cliff Booth. Specifically, in 1969, was a shift in Hollywood. It was this new era of filmmaking, and Rick Dalton, unfortunately, is left in the past with that and try to stay relevant. So, this movie, I hate to use the term, but it's a bromance movie. It's about Cliff and Rick. Them two together, when they're on screen, it's hands down one of the best relationships I've seen in a film. The two crack jokes with one another. They always look out for each other. They're like brothers. They're best friends. And I just loved being there. And another spoiler alert, stop watching if you haven't seen this movie. But it also has to do with the Sharon Tate murders, the Manson family murders. So back in 1969, Sharon Tate was brutally murdered by the Mansons, or the Devils as they call themselves. And in real life, they get to her house, they kill her, and they take her blood, and they write on the walls. And it's this really horrific event that happened in Hollywood. Now, what Quentin Tarantino does is he takes a small part of history and he does whatever the hell he wants with it. We've seen this in Inglourious Basterds. Spoiler alert, Hitler dies in a movie theater. Did that happen? Did I learn that in history class? No, because it didn't happen. But what Tarantino could do is he takes all these true stories and he twists and turns them into his own version. Henceforth, why it's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So at the end, you're in for a treat. I don't want to talk too much about it, but we see all the violence that we finally were waiting for in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which solidified it as my favorite film of 2019. So that's my list. I'll put it right here just for a quick refresher. I'm sorry if this was a long video, but we're not done just yet. I did rank all my movies from my opinion, but I will give you the top 3 that I think are most likely to win Best Picture. Starting with most likely to win, we got 1, 1917, 2, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 3, Parasite. Yes, what I think will win Best Picture is completely different from my opinions. So I do think 1917 will take the Oscar for Best Picture. I think it was groundbreaking with what they did cinematography-wise. Marriage Story, as you see, was number 3, but it's not in... I don't think it has a chance in winning Best Picture, unfortunately. But yeah, my pick is 1917 for Best Picture, but my favorite movie of 2019, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Thank you so much for watching. This was my first video doing a review like this, and I'd love to do more. Feel free to comment, disagree with me. Let's have a civil discussion in the comment section below, and hopefully I will be making more of these videos if people keep watching. So Oscars are today, So we're going to see what wins, what doesn't. Let's see if I was right or wrong. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Ryan Manood.
Anybody order fried sauerkraut?